It is time to get into our Week 12 NFL MoneyLine picks and best bets. We're starting off with the Bills, who are favored by 5.5 against the Houston Texans, a Houston Texans team that have won their last two games by the arm of Davis Mills, not the one behind CJ Stroud against divisional opponents in the Jaguars and the Titans. Now, to me, I think that the Houston Texans defense has maybe been a top three unit all year. I think that Buffalo sometimes struggles against the weaker opponents. They definitely play up to their competition. We saw Josh Allen have a tremendous game against the Buccaneers on Sunday, maybe one of the best games of his career. He was unstoppable. And, Buffalo really struggled. Khalif Shakir did not get the ball enough. Don't Kincaid reportedly may come back on Thursday night. He is questionable. I think this is a tricky spread because if you're going to tell me Josh Allen over Davis Mills, you guys know my general rule. I'm just going to take the better quarterback. So I'm going to take Buffalo to win. I think there's a chance the Bills could blow out the Texans because I don't know if Davis Mills is going to be able to move the ball on Houston, who has certainly missed Joe Mixon in the run game. Nick Chubb has not been himself. They're trying to get something out of Willie Marks. They're not getting a lot out of him. Nico Collins, a very good receiver. If they find a way to get in the ball, Dalton Schultz had a pretty good game last week. Like, we'll see. I think there's a real chance the Texans could keep this close. 5.5 to me is probably about right. Again, I also think there's a chance Buffalo blows them out. I think the Bills know what they have to do. Obviously, the Texans are trying to somewhat keep pace with the Colts and the Jaguars in the AFC South and trying to make a run of it. I just don't see it. If CJ Stroud was in this game, I'd give the Texans a real shot to pull off the upset, but I'm going to take Buffalo on the road. Then we have obviously the big 1 o'clock game, that being the Colts at the Chiefs, and we all know the Chiefs are 5-5. And to me, I think the fact that the Colts coming off a bye, Kansas City still at Arrowhead is favored by 3.5. I think not only is that Arrowhead being home field advantage, I think that Vegas still believes that Kansas City Chiefs are better than the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, I think the Colts could do coming off a bye what Buffalo did against them, which essentially used James Cook, and for the Colts, it would be using Jonathan Taylor and running the clock down the Chiefs' throat, not giving Patrick Mahomes possessions. I go back to a game in, I believe it was 2019, Jacoby Brissett and the Indianapolis Colts on a Sunday night went in there with Frank Reich as the head coach, and they ran the football down the Chiefs' throat, and they came out of Arrowhead with a victory. If they're going to do so, I think that is the formula. I think the Chiefs obviously know how big this game is. If they lose this game, there is more than a real chance at this point. The Kansas City Chiefs are not a playoff team this year. This is a must-win game for the Chiefs. And again, like I just want to watch the game. I think these are two heavyweight titans going at it. I understand why Bucks, Rams, Panthers, Niners were not flexed off because those are good games. But this is a game here in the 1 o'clock window that means everything, in my opinion, for both teams. For Indianapolis, it's a statement. It's a chance for them to continue winning and have a chance right there with Denver and New England for the number one seed in the AFC. For Kansas City, this is almost essentially their season with their loss to Denver last week. So I'm going to take the Chiefs at home. I just think, again, Patrick Mahomes over Daniel Jones. But I'm not sleeping on Indy. I think they could pull off the upset. Then, Seattle at Tennessee. And we know how good the Seahawks have been on the road in the Mike McDonald era. We know how good the Seahawks have been on the East Coast. They're the best football team in the NFL going west to East Coast. Cam Ward at his probably his best game of the season, and the Tennessee offense is terrible. Seattle should stop them. The spread is 13.5. Seattle honestly should cover it. Like if you took Seattle and Survivor this week, I would not blame you. I took Seattle in week 3 over the Saints, so I cannot use them. But it's just too many points, and then there's better bets on the board. I'm just taking Seattle obviously to win the game. One of the bets I'm going to take is New England. They are 7.5 point favorites. They're taking on the Bengals. And I think the Bengals could get off to a hot start because New England's always played slow. Obviously, this would be a very big game. I think if Joe Burrow was in the game, I think Joe Burrow could return Thursday night on Thanksgiving against the Ravens. But here we are. This is the rematch of week one last year when New England went into Cincinnati and stunned them. And now all of a sudden the Patriots have a chance to win this game and continue momentum to get the number one seed in the AFC. Again, I think the nostalgia for Joe Flacco is worn off in Cincinnati with the Jamar Chase, Jalen Ramsey spitting incident, them not having Jalen Ramsey, or excuse me, Jamar Chase. I think it's going to be huge because I think you could put Christian Gonzalez on T. Higgins. You can take him away. The Bengals' run defense has been horrific this year. Travion Henderson is starting to eat up for New England. I suspect a big game for the Ohio State running back. I like New England here to win by more than a touchdown, to cover the 7.5 on the road. In fact, they're 7.5 point favorites on the road. Vegas is giving a lot of respect to New England. Then the Ravens. They like the Seahawks are favored by 13.5. They like the Seahawks should cover. If you want to take the Ravens and Survivor, it's another good option. I took them last week against the Browns. The Jets are starting former Raven quarterback Tyrod Taylor. At this point, I think Tyrod Taylor is shot. Without Garrett Wilson, the Jets don't have any choice. The offense is bad. They're easily the worst offense in the league. I think after almost losing to the Browns last week, this is a chance for Lamar Jackson, who did not run a lot last week, and I don't even know if he's 100% healthy. And I think the Ravens defense started to come on here, really since that game against the Rams, well, week 7, week 8, when they only lost 17 points. I think this is a smash spot chance for Baltimore. Now, I like the Bears at 2.5, but I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to play for the Steelers. It's a very tricky game here. Uh, the Bears, listen, they started off 0-2. They've won 7 of their last 8. They're now 7-3 and leading the NFC North. And yes, they are winning at the buzzer. Yes, they are winning these close games. But in year 2 for Caleb Williams, year 1 for Ben Johnson, that is a skill. Ben Johnson is setting the culture. And the one thing that Chicago will do that a lot of teams have not done against Pittsburgh this year is stay with the run. And the Steelers have a better run defense. I just think this is a very weird game. I think the fact the Bears are only favored by 2.5, it feels like a pick 'em. I think at home is the advantage the Bears have here. Caleb Williams is going to be able to use, snap count and everything being at home. If Pittsburgh for sure had Aaron Rodgers healthy, I think it's a different story. Aaron Rodgers, we know, obviously owns the Bears throughout his career. I'm going off the fact that I think it's going to be Mason Rudolph. I think the Bears win, but again, the uncertainty at quarterback for Pittsburgh, I don't know. I'll stay away from the bet. I'm going to take the Lions, who I think they come back, they cover the 10.5, they lose to Philly, their offensive line, excuse me, absolutely gets destroyed by the Eagles' defensive line. And the Giants, well, their defensive line on paper may be one of the best in the league. They have not lived up to it this year. We know how good the Lions are in their fast track in the dome. Jameis Winston, to me, is going to give you the football. I don't think Mike Kafka and the Giants are doing anything. I mean, the Giants went from a very frisky team with Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo to last week having neither of them. They don't look like the same team. Um, they're getting ready for next year. They're going to find the right coach for Jackson Dart. And I think even if Jackson Dart were to return this week, I don't think it's enough. I think the Lions are embarrassed from the way they played on Sunday night. I think that they'll come out. I think that they hammer the Giants. Again, another favorable survivor pick. I picked them against the Commanders a couple weeks ago, so I can't use them either. But Lions, Ravens, Seahawks, I think this week are all good survivor pick options. Then I like Green Bay to bounce back. I think this is a very important game for both teams. JJ McCarthy has not played well the last 2 weeks. Minnesota went into Green Bay last year with Sam Darnold and won. We're not sure yet about the status of Josh Jacobs for the Packers, but they have not played well in a month. But for them, with the Bears and the Lions keep winning, they got to keep pace or they're in danger of not even falling behind even more in the NFC North. But they're in danger of missing the playoffs altogether, especially next week when they have to go on the road to Detroit on Thanksgiving. Yes, they handled the Lions in week one. We all know the Lions are going to remember that, and that's going to be a fantastic Thanksgiving game. For JJ McCarthy, we'll see. He looks very nervous in the pocket right now, and I think going up against the Packers defensive line with, you know, um, Quay Walker and Micah Parsons is going to be too much for him to handle. Justin Jefferson could have a big game. Green Bay doesn't have the best secondary in the world, but they played together. They've had a very good season. It's going to take a lot for Minnesota, I think, to go into Green Bay and win. I don't know if they can. I'll take the Packers. 6.5, this is a divisional game. Could be close. I could also see Green Bay pulling away late. I'm going to stay away from the bet. Then, Arizona, the last 2 weeks at Seattle, when I bet them plus 6.5, and then against the Niners, and I was thinking that could be a frisky game. In Arizona did not show up really at all. I think the Jaguars, I know they just blew out the Chargers last week. I'm not expecting a blowout here, but I think it could be. Again, I think the Jaguars, especially if the Colts lose to Kansas City, Houston loses to Buffalo, see an opportunity here to potentially come in and snatch the the potential AFC North crown. Jacoby Brissett has not played well for the Arizona Cardinals over the last 2 weeks. I think Jacksonville can cover the 2.5. Then we have the Saints, who are 1.5 point underdogs, and that's it against a Falcons team where Kirk Cousins who cannot move the ball. Listen, we know this is one of the best rivalries in the NFL. I think very possibly the Atlanta Falcons could lose this game to the Saints. This could be the Saints' second win. The Saints are coming off a bye. Drake London now at this point may not play for the Falcons. I don't know what to expect. I just think the Falcons are going to finish over the Saints in the standings. I know the Saints are at home. Maybe Kirk Cousins on a full week to prepare. He looked bad against the Dolphins. He looked bad against the Panthers. I get it. Brandon Staley, that attacking Saints defense, like, I don't know. I just think Jeff Ulbrich is gonna, come after Tyler Shuck, and he's not gonna be able to handle it. I think this is gonna be a very ugly game down there in New Orleans. Now, the Raiders are favored by 3.5. Shador Sanders is making his first career start for the Browns. If you bet this game to me, I think you're crazy. We have no idea what to expect from Shador Sanders. I think Kevin Stefanski has been told that he is safe and has started tanking because the Browns' offense looks lifeless. Then again, so do the Las Vegas Raiders. We have two of the best pass rushers in the game in Myles Garrett and Max Crosby. Both of them are probably going to wreck these games because these are the top two worst offensive lines, in my opinion, in the entire NFL. I think that there's going to be some ugly quarterback play. Geno Smith said this week that he'd take responsibility for how bad the Raiders have been this year. I don't think they're going to get Ashton Jeanty going. I think the Browns have the better run game with Quinshawn Junkins and Dylan Sampson right now. This is a battle of, three of the top five, six running backs that were taken to start the NFL draft. I just hope Shador Sanders plays well. I hope the Browns throw early on first down. I hope they give him a chance. But this thing could be really ugly. The Raiders are favored by 3.5. I took the Browns in week 10 against the Jets stupidly because you never trust the Browns. The Jets only had 50 passing yards and they won that game. The Browns are 0-5 against the Raiders since the Raiders moved to Las Vegas. I think the buck stops here. I just think the Browns' defensive line is again better than the Raiders, and I think this thing could be real ugly. But I hope, for Browns fans' sake, that Shador Sanders just outplays Geno Smith just enough. Then obviously I'm taking my Eagles. It is Cowboy week. They're favored by 3.5. I'm betting them. Listen, I think the Cowboys can beat up bad teams. I think that the Eagles' defense is a lot better than what it was week one. We know that Jalen Carter's spinning incident that happened week one. I think he's going to be motivated to make more plays. The Eagles' offense hasn't even been good the last 2 weeks, but now they take on, still, in my opinion, one of the worst defenses in the NFL. I am worried about the Wayne Johnson injury for the Eagles, but I think Fred Johnson Came in week three against the Rams. He stabilized that right tackle position. Um, he came in last week um, against the Lions on Sunday night and did his job against Aiden Hutchinson. There wasn't a ton of pressure. I think Jeff Stoutland's one of the best offensive line coaches in the league. I think the Eagles at this point are more used to playing without Wayne Johnson this year than they are with him. Again, it's a divisional rivalry in Dallas. Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott always play good games. Dak Prescott always plays well against Philly. I expect them to be able to move the ball. Off the Marshawn Kneeland unfortunate situation, it was a very emotional game Monday night for Dallas. I think they come back down to earth. I think Philly covers the 3.5. And then my last bet here is I don't understand how the Rams are 6.5 point favorites. I think Tampa's still a very good team. They went toe to toe with Buffalo. I think a fumble is what I want Buffalo to pull away from that game late. Tampa was leading most of that game in Buffalo. Yes, the Rams defense is very good, but the Rams offense was not very good last week against Seattle. And that was at home. I expect Baker Mayfield to come out. I think the Bucks are going to move the ball. I think they're going to be able to keep this game close. I think the Rams win this game, but I think these are two of the most even teams in the league. I know the Rams are obviously going to try to take away Emeka Buka, but I think Sean Tucker's starting to come on. They still got Bucky Irving. Cam Otten is still there. I just don't see this being a blowout. I think this is a very close game throughout between two of the top four-ish teams in the NFC. I think Tampa is trying to not lose the NFC South Division lead with Carolina nipping at their heels. I think this would be a bad watch for the Bucks if the Rams blow them out. I think it would bring in serious questions if Carolina can come back and win that division. I got the Rams winning, but I think Tampa keeps it close. And then I actually swapped the Tampa Bay game for the San Francisco game. I do like the Niners -7. I think that's the side. I am going to take San Francisco in Survivor this week. I am still not a believer in the Panthers. I like Bryce Young. I just don't know what I'm getting week to week. And outside of the Jets game and really the Packer game, where he didn't really play well. They only put up 13 points. He has not been good on the road. Now, what scares me in this is the San Francisco 49ers obviously don't have a defensive line anymore because Nick Bosa and Fred Warner are out for the season. Could Rico Dotto, Chuba Hubbard chew the clock? Absolutely. Ted McMillan has come on. Even Xavier will get a little bit has come on for the Carolina Panthers. There was a great road win last week for the Panthers, but it was in overtime. And usually teams that go to overtime don't play well the next week. You could say the same thing for the Falcons, which again, I have no idea what to make of that game. So I think the Niners, they're at home. It's a Monday night. I don't know if Carolina's going to get much pressure on Brock Purdy. That is the key. But I think that Christian McCaffrey, I believe this is his first game against the Panthers since becoming a Niner. I think he has a big game, and that's why the Niners, I believe, will win. Again, I like a -7. I thought the Bucks side of it with +6.5. I wanted to take a dog this week, so I switched it out last second. And now, to recap, I like Buffalo over Houston, Kansas City over Indianapolis, Seattle over Tennessee, New England over Cincinnati, Baltimore over the Jets, Chicago over Pittsburgh, Detroit over the Giants, Green Bay over Minnesota, Jacksonville over Arizona, Atlanta over New Orleans, Cleveland over Vegas, Philly over Dallas, the Rams over Tampa, and San Francisco over Carolina. My five bets for week 12 of the 2025 NFL season are I like the Patriots on the road. I think they come in. I think the Bengals without Jamar Chase, they struggle with the football. New England covers the 7.5. I think the Lions bounce back from the Eagles game last week. Whether it's Jameis Winston or Jackson Dart, I think they put it on the Giants and cover 10.5. I think Jacksonville, it may not be a blowout. Arizona's gotten blown out 2 straight weeks. Jackson will blow out the Chargers. This may feel like a trap game, but I think Jacksonville sees an opportunity here to stay afloat in the AFC South race. I think they cover 2.5 on the road against the Cardinals. I think the Cowboys come back down to earth. I'll take my Eagles. I think they have a lot better defense than what they had week 1. I think Jalen Carter's motivated after being suspended for the spinning incident, not playing week one. I think the Eagles go into AT&T Stadium. They cover the 3.5. They take down Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. And then I think the Rams win, but I think Tampa keeps it close. I don't see a blowout here. It's going to be a great back and forth game between Matthew Stafford and Baker Mayfield. I think it's too many points. I'll take Tampa plus 6.5. Like that clip from the Brandsworth podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brandsworth podcast right here on YouTube.